The world of Skyrim is filled with unanswered questions, mysteries buried in snow, whispered by ghosts, and written between the lines of forgotten books. For years, players have explored every ruin, listened to every rumor, and pieced together strange coincidences until they formed stories of their own. These are the theories born from curiosity, the quiet legends that live not in official lore, but in the imagination of those who wandered too far into the mountains. One of the most enduring theories among fans is that the Dragonborn is a fragment of Akatosh himself, not just blessed by the god of time, but literally an echo of his divine essence. The argument lies in the way the Dragonborn can absorb the souls of dragons. Some believe this act isn't mere magic, but the reuniting of Akatosh's scattered power. When Alduin was banished forward in time by the Elder Scrolls, it may have fractured the god's temporal nature, creating mortals like the Dragonborn as anchors to keep reality stable. Each shout, each absorbed soul, becomes Akatosh remembering himself. It paints the Dragonborn not as a hero, but as the final repair to a broken timeline. Others have proposed the opposite, that Alduin is not evil at all, but a misunderstood agent of balance. According to this view, his role as the World Eater is not destruction for cruelty's sake, but a sacred duty. The world of Nirn must end for another to begin, and Alduin is simply following the will of the cosmos. This theory reframes the main quest's finale, the slaying of Alduin, as a cosmic tragedy. In stopping him, the Dragonborn may have broken the cycle of rebirth, ensuring that this version of the world lingers unnaturally long. It's a haunting thought that the hero who saved Skyrim also doomed it to stagnation. There's also a quieter theory, less grand but deeply personal, that Paarthurnax once attempted to ascend to godhood through meditation atop the throat of the world. His long exile and calm philosophy, according to some players, are not acts of guilt but of failure. He sought to transcend mortality and become something like Akatosh, but the voice turned against him. The scar on the mountain, where the time wound lingers, is said to be the mark of that failure. This interpretation gives new depth to Paarthurnax's calm demeanor, the peace of someone who tried to become divine and learned instead to be wise. Another fan theory suggests that the Greybeards are slowly becoming dragons themselves. Their mastery of the Thu'um, the language of creation, has begun to reshape their bodies and souls. Their voices cause earthquakes. Their words can bend the air. It's said that the longer one meditates on the way of the voice, the more one's soul begins to reflect the power it studies. Perhaps that's why the Greybeards isolate themselves high above the world, living in silence, to delay the transformation. In this light, their leader, Arngir, is not just a monk, but a being trapped between two states, man and dragon, prayer and roar. Some players believe that Skyrim's civil war was engineered by the Thalmor, not just politically, but mystically. The Aldmeri Dominion's secret goal, according to lore, is the unmaking of Nirn, the undoing of the mortal plane that imprisons their ancestors. What better way to weaken reality than by sowing endless conflict between those who represent time's two strongest forces? The Empire, stability, and the Nords, chaos. The Thalmor, in this view, are not trying to win the war, they're trying to prolong it forever. As long as Stormcloaks and Imperials keep dying for flags and gods, the foundations of the world tremble. A stranger, more melancholic theory proposes that the last Dragonborn was never real at all. Instead, they are the final dream of Akatosh, the god of time, as he fades from existence. The dragons, the shouts, even the world's frozen mountains, all of it exists within his dying thoughts. This is why time bends around the Dragonborn, why reality sometimes loops and glitches, and why everyone seems to wait for them wherever they go. They are the echo of the god's last dream, before eternity resets. And when the player stops playing, when the screen fades to black, Akatosh finally sleeps. Fans have long speculated about the Dwemer's true fate, and one haunting theory suggests they never vanished at all. They simply evolved beyond perception. The moment Kegranak activated the heart of Lorkhan, the Dwemer's physical forms disintegrated, but their consciousness didn't die. Instead, it merged into the very fabric of Nirn. Every gear that turns in a Dwemer ruin, every humming tonal lock, every steam hiss might be a fragment of their collective will. In this interpretation, the Dwemer became the machines themselves, trapped in eternal motion, their souls ticking away in clockwork prayer. Then there's the idea that the Dragonborn's choices are illusions, that fate in Skyrim is already written, and every quest, every side path, every battle has already been seen by the Elder Scrolls themselves. When the player reads a scroll, they momentarily glimpse this truth, the feeling of déjà vu that the game calls temporal distortion. According to this theory, the Dragonborn isn't defying destiny. They are fulfilling it exactly as written. It adds a layer of tragic inevitability to every action. Even rebellion becomes part of the script. Another widely discussed theory centers on the Night Mother, the spectral matron of the Dark Brotherhood. Some believe she is not Mephala, as traditional lore suggests, but rather an aspect of Sithis, a fragment of the void given voice. Her whispers to the listener are not instructions, but echoes, the remnants of creation's opposite. Each assassination ordered by the Brotherhood, then, is not murder but worship, the honoring of entropy itself. This theory makes the Dark Brotherhood not a cult of killers, but priests of cosmic silence. Some fans have speculated that Sithis and Akatosh are two sides of the same god, the beginning and end of time. Akatosh is the linear, forward-moving aspect, while Sithis is the reset, the void between moments. In this reading, their followers are not enemies, but reflections of the same eternal rhythm. The heartbeat of existence. Time breathes in, and Akatosh rules. Time breathes out, and Sithis devours. Skyrim's endless cycles of war, death, and rebirth become part of that breath. The game itself, repeating saves and restarts, mirrors the same cosmic inhale and exhale. Another quiet, lingering theory is that the Dovahkiin's soul can never die. When the player's character falls, the game reloads not because of gameplay mechanics, but because the Dragonborn's soul rewinds time to before their death. That momentary flash of black, the reload, is actually the soul's shout, an unconscious Teed Clo Ul, bending the timeline backward. It means the Dragonborn is trapped in an endless loop of trying again, never able to rest. Some fans even imagine that this is the true curse of being Dragonborn, not glory, but immortality through repetition. A more philosophical theory suggests that the gods of Skyrim are fading, and their power now flows through belief rather than divinity. The fewer people who worship them, the weaker they become. This explains why Talos is so contested. The Thalmor aren't just erasing a god's name, they're erasing the god himself. The Empire's compromise with the Dominion isn't just political, it's metaphysical. Every time a Nord hides their faith, Talos fades a little more, his divine spark dimming like a star that can only exist when seen. It's a chilling idea that gods live and die by mortal memory. Some players believe that the Dragonborn will eventually become a Daedric prince. The logic lies in the pattern of Elder Scrolls heroes. Tiber Septim ascended to godhood, the Nerevarine vanished into myth, and the champion of Cyrodiil became Sheogorath. The Dragonborn's mastery of the voice, their resistance to mortality, and their connection to dragon souls suggest a similar path. When the Fourth Era fades, they may claim a new realm within Oblivion, a plane not of chaos or terror, but of balance, where man and dragon coexist. Perhaps, in some far future, mortals will pray to a god of mountains and wind, and that god will answer with a whisper in Dovazul. A subtler fan theory proposes that the Falmer are slowly regaining their sight. Centuries of mutation and darkness blinded them, but their evolution hasn't stopped. Their skin, once pallid and smooth, has begun to harden. Their ears are shrinking, their posture straightening. It's said that deep within Blackreach, a new generation of Falmer is emerging, pale yet seeing. Their culture might be rebuilding, their language returning, their hatred softening. Skyrim never tells us what becomes of them, and maybe that's for the best. Some legends are more peaceful when unfinished. One of the eeriest theories is that the soul cairn feeds on regret. The souls trapped within its endless twilight are not bound by necromancy alone. They remain because they cannot let go of something in life. Every cry you hear there, every faint whisper, is a memory looping endlessly. The ideal masters who rule that realm feed not on souls themselves, but on emotion, pain, fear, longing. It means that when the Dragonborn enters, their own memories begin to echo too. The strange quiet of the soul cairn isn't emptiness, it's the sound of countless regrets humming like wind through stone. And then, perhaps the most human theory of all, that the Dragonborn was never chosen, they simply chose themselves. The shouts, the prophecies, the titles, they only gained power because the people believed. If the Dragonborn never answered the call, someone else would have. It's not destiny that makes a hero, it's decision. The gods don't choose champions. Champions create gods by believing they've been chosen. It's the oldest story in Tamriel, retold every age in new armor and new faces. Skyrim just happens to be the age we're living in now. Among the most fascinating theories in Skyrim's fan community is the idea that the Dragonborn never truly defeats Alduin. The final battle in Sovngarde, according to this belief, is symbolic, a vision within the realm of heroes, rather than a physical event. When the mist clears and Alduin dissolves into light, some players argue that he isn't dying at all, but shedding his mortal form and returning to his true place in the cycle of time. The victory is an illusion meant to satisfy the Dragonborn's journey. After all, when the player leaves Sovngarde, the world doesn't change. Dragons still fly, shouts still echo, and the sky still trembles. Perhaps Alduin's absence is temporary, and one day, time itself will call him back to devour the world again. Another popular theory claims that the Daedric princes are not gods at all, but echoes of mortal emotion given divine shape. Each one, from Molag Bal's cruelty to Meridia's radiance, embodies an extreme of mortal behavior magnified across eternity. This theory explains why Daedric artifacts always come with a price. They are reflections of the soul that created them. In this reading, every mortal who worships a Daedric prince is not praying to an external being, but to a piece of themselves that has been magnified into infinity. It means the Daedra are not rulers of oblivion, but mirrors of Nirn's flaws. There's a gentler theory about Lucien Lachance, the spectral assassin who guides the Dragonborn during the Dark Brotherhood's later quests. Some fans believe that his ghost never left because he found peace through service. After his tragic betrayal in Oblivion, Lucien's soul wandered the void until the listener of Skyrim unknowingly called him back. His spirit lingers not out of vengeance, but gratitude, a chance to protect the family he failed before. When his voice fades after the Brotherhood's restoration, it's not sorrow, it's completion. He's finally been forgiven, even if only by himself. Fans often wonder about the Dragonborn's visions when reading the Elder Scrolls. One theory suggests that those moments of blindness aren't temporary at all. They're glimpses of the true state of reality, which the human mind cannot process. When the Dragonborn's eyes go white and the world freezes, they are seeing the structure of time itself, threads, loops, and patterns connecting every life and era. The blindness that follows isn't damage, it's mercy. Akatosh closes their sight so they can return to a world that makes sense. A more obscure but poetic theory imagines that the entire world of Skyrim exists within the dreams of a dragon. This theory ties to ancient Nordic myth, which often describes the world as being sung or dreamed into existence. In this case, the dragon is not Alduin or Paarthurnax, but an unnamed cosmic being, perhaps the first dragon, perhaps time itself. Every event, every snowfall, every shout is part of that dream. When the Dragonborn uses their voice, they aren't summoning magic. They're harmonizing with the dreamer, adjusting the melody of reality. The pause after each shout, the moment of silence, is the dragon listening back. Another popular fan interpretation involves the mysterious Septimus Cygnus and his connection to Hermaeus Mora. Some believe that Septimus was once a high-ranking member of the College of Winterhold, driven mad by the pursuit of forbidden knowledge. But the deeper theory is stranger, that Septimus never actually met the Dragonborn at all. Instead, the player's entire interaction with him is a projection within the mind of Hermaeus Mora. The cave, the lexicon, the dialogue, all illusions designed to test the mortal's curiosity. Once the lexicon is filled, Septimus dies because the illusion ends. The true Septimus may have perished decades before the game began, long forgotten in the ice. There's also the idea that the Dwemer's disappearance wasn't a singular event, but a slow erasure. Every time someone studies their technology, some fragment of Dwemer essence transfers into the observer. Over centuries, the Dwemer didn't vanish. They diffused, becoming the minds that study them. The greatest Dwemer scholars unknowingly carry their consciousness. It's why Dwemer technology never truly advances, because its creators still exist, subtly influencing mortals to preserve their mysteries rather than solve them. In this light, the Dwemer didn't fail. They achieved immortality by dissolving into thought itself. Another theory connects the Ebony Warrior to the reincarnation of Ysgramor's lost brother. His immense skill, his desire for a final honorable battle, and his Nordic mannerisms all support the idea that he's carrying ancient guilt, perhaps the guilt of betraying Ysgramor during the return. His challenge to the Dragonborn isn't arrogance, but redemption. He seeks a death worthy of forgiveness. When he falls in combat, the silence that follows feels less like defeat and more like peace, the end of a story that began in Skyrim's first age. One haunting speculation suggests that the College of Winterhold is collapsing into another dimension. The strange disappearances, the magical anomalies, and the unnatural silence of its halls hint at a deeper corruption beneath the surface. The Eye of Magnus, said to be a relic of creation, may have destabilized reality around the college, causing it to drift slowly out of sync with Nirn. One day, the city might vanish entirely, leaving behind nothing but whispers on the wind. The remaining mages may not even notice the transition. They'll simply keep teaching spells, unaware that they're no longer in the same world. Fans who love darker theories often discuss the possibility that the Dragonborn is Sheogorath's successor in more ways than one. The champion of Cyrodiil became Sheogorath, but some believe that the god of madness left behind a contingency, a mortal lineage of chaos. The Dragonborn's unpredictable nature, their freedom from fate, and their immunity to the laws of magic all echo Sheogorath's influence. It's even been suggested that every Dragonborn carries a spark of madness inherited from that transformation, and that the events of Skyrim are not fate, but divine mischief playing itself out again. One of the most emotional theories imagines that the Dragonborn's housecarls are fragments of the same soul. Lydia, Iona, Jordis, Argus. Their personalities differ, but their loyalty is absolute, and their dialogue often mirrors each other's. Some players believe they are all echoes of a single being, perhaps a divine guardian reincarnated across holds to protect the Dragonborn in every timeline. Their famous line, "I am sworn to carry your burdens," gains new meaning here. They aren't just companions, but manifestations of duty itself. When one dies, another appears, as if destiny is replacing a missing piece of the Dragonborn spirit. There's also a lighter, almost comforting theory that Cicero's madness hides profound wisdom. The jester speaks in riddles and sings to the Night Mother, but some of his dialogue about cycles, time, and decay eerily parallels ancient cosmology. Fans speculate that Cicero is not insane at all, but enlightened. He understands the meaningless repetition of the world and has chosen laughter over despair. The Night Mother doesn't speak to him because she must. She speaks because he's one of the few who can truly hear. Another unsettling theory ties together the Blades and the Thalmor, suggesting that the two are not enemies, but two halves of the same ancient order. Both seek control over dragons, both manipulate empires through secrecy, and both claim divine authority. According to this theory, the Blades' origins as the Akaviri Dragon Guard may have intertwined with early Aldmeri cults. Over time, their goals diverged, but their roots remain entangled. The Dragonborn's conflict between them, choosing whether to kill Paarthurnax, is symbolic of a much older war between order and freedom that never truly ends. A mysterious fan theory surrounds the Dark Brotherhood's sanctuary shadows. If you visit the Falkreath Sanctuary after killing the members, some players swear they've seen faint, humanoid silhouettes along the walls, visible only in torchlight. The theory suggests that these are the souls of the assassins, bound to their home even in death. Sithis doesn't free them. He keeps them as echoes, each shadow a fragment of their devotion. It fits Skyrim's haunting mood that the greatest loyalty one can give the void is eternal servitude. There's an eerie speculation that Blackreach itself is alive. The bioluminescent fungus, the constant humming, and the rhythmic glow of the cavern suggest not machinery, but metabolism. The ancient Dwemer city may sit inside a living organism, perhaps even a fragment of Nirn's heart. The glowing towers in this reading are not structures but organs, pulsing with residual life force. The Falmer worship the light not out of ignorance, but reverence. They know they are inside a god, and every sound that echoes through the cavern is its slow, dreaming breath. Another contemplative theory proposes that Skyrim's dragons aren't beasts, but concepts. Each dragon represents a fundamental aspect of the world. Alduin is time, Paarthurnax is wisdom, Odaviing is loyalty, Durnevir is death. When a dragon dies, its concept doesn't vanish, it reincarnates elsewhere. That's why dragon souls can be absorbed but never destroyed. The Dragonborn doesn't kill dragons, they internalize them. Every shout learned is a philosophy accepted. The more dragons slain, the more identities merged, until the Dragonborn is no longer one person, but many voices speaking through one form. And finally, one of the oldest Skyrim theories suggests that the Dragonborn story is the final era of Nirn. The Fourth Era's end is never described in official lore, and many fans believe that's intentional. Skyrim may be the last echo of a world at its limit, the moment before the next Kalpa, when everything resets. The constant snow, the dying gods, the broken prophecy of Alduin, all signs of an age ending. When the player finishes Skyrim, the screen fades not just to black, but to silence, as if the story has looped. In that emptiness lies possibility. Perhaps the next Kalpa begins the moment you wake again, and somewhere a dragon opens its eyes. Skyrim's frozen peaks and quiet ruins have always hidden more than they reveal. For every dragon's roar that shakes the mountains, there are 10,000 whispers buried beneath the snow. Among them are the strangest and most persistent ideas, fan theories that drift like ghosts between fact and faith, filling the gaps that Bethesda never explained. These theories don't try to replace canon. They exist in the soft spaces between, where imagination takes root and the cold wind carries secrets. One of the most compelling is that Hermaeus Mora is not a Daedric prince at all, but the collective memory of the Dwemer. This theory links the endless archives of Apocrypha to the dwarves' disappearance. When Kagrenac struck the heart of Lorkhan, the Dwemer may not have died. They may have been absorbed into knowledge itself, their consciousness scattered like pages in an infinite library. Hermaeus Mora, in this interpretation, is what remains of them. Not a god of forbidden knowledge, but a living archive made of every Dwemer mind that ever existed. His tentacles, his whispers, his obsession with knowledge, they're not monstrous, but mechanical. The Dwemer sought eternity through understanding, and they found it, just not in the way they intended. A sister theory claims that Nocturnal and Azura are the same being seen from two perspectives. Azura represents light, prophecy, and clarity. Nocturnal embodies shadow, secrecy, and deception. Together they form the duality of perception, the idea that all light casts a shadow. This explains why both goddesses favor mortals who act unseen: thieves, mages, wanderers, and seers. When the player steals under the Thieves' Guild's blessing, they may actually be serving both. The Twilight Sepulchre, in this view, isn't a shrine to Nocturnal alone, it's a place where shadow and starlight merge. The two goddesses are not rivals, but phases of the same cosmic cycle. Another haunting theory surrounds the Black Books of Solstheim. Some fans believe these tomes aren't artifacts at all, but living fragments of Hermaeus Mora himself. Each one acts as a door into his body, pulling the reader into a different organ of Apocrypha. The ink dripping from their pages isn't just fluid, it's blood. Every time someone opens a black book, a piece of their mind becomes part of him, feeding his endless hunger for knowledge. This would mean that when the Dragonborn reads the final Black Book, they don't just learn the secrets of Mora, they become one of them. Perhaps, somewhere deep in Apocrypha, another Black Book forms, its title written in the Dragonborn's name. Solstheim itself has inspired countless theories. Some players believe that the island is not part of Nirn anymore, that it detached from the mortal plane after the eruption of Red Mountain. The strange behavior of the terrain, the otherworldly glow of its ash storms, and the constant presence of Daedric influence suggest that it's phasing in and out of reality. The island's shape on the map never matches its position in lore, leading some to suspect that Solstheim is drifting an island not on the ocean, but between dimensions. This would explain why the Allmaker stones hum with unnatural power, and why Miraak, long dead, can still reach across time to enslave minds. Speaking of Miraak, one of the eeriest fan ideas is that he was never truly Hermaeus Mora's servant, he was his rival. According to this view, Miraak didn't seek forbidden knowledge to serve the Daedra, he sought to overthrow him. Apocrypha wasn't his prison but his siege. Each black book he created was a failed weapon, a shard of rebellion. When Mora's tentacles finally dragged him into the ink, it wasn't punishment, it was absorption. The line, "He was the first, but he will not be the last," is not a warning, it's a confession. Miraak succeeded, in part, by infecting Mora's realm with his own will. Somewhere in that endless sea of pages, a second consciousness now sleeps, waiting. Some players extend that thought even further, proposing that every Daedric prince is slowly merging with their followers. The more mortals they influence, the more their realms reflect mortal emotion. Oblivion itself is becoming human. This theory would mean that Daedric power isn't eternal, it's contagious. Skyrim's many artifacts, scattered across Nirn, act like spores of divine will. Every time someone wields Dawnbreaker, every time they use the Wabbajack or Azura's Star, a small portion of their soul blends with the essence of its creator. Over thousands of years, the boundary between Daedra and mortal may vanish entirely, leading to a final age when Oblivion and Nirn become one. There's a beautiful melancholy to the theory that the Dragonborn's followers are bound by time loops. Every time the player reloads or fast travels, their companions experience the same memories again, but cannot change them. That's why they repeat the same phrases, stand in the same places, and always forgive the player no matter what happens. Their consciousness resets, trapped in a comforting cycle of loyalty. Lydia's quiet sighs, Serana's measured tone, Feandal's eternal calm, they aren't bad writing, they're subtle signs of awareness. They know they're trapped, but they've accepted it. The world changes around them, yet they remain steady, constant as stone. An older, but still popular idea suggests that the Aedra and Daedra are not separate species, but alternate states of the same energy. When a divine invests their power into the mortal plane, they become Aedra, bound and weakened by creation. When they withdraw and act only through thought, they become Daedra, free but detached. In this cosmology, the difference between Akatosh and Mehrunes Dagon is simply perspective. Both are flames, one burning inward, the other outward. This would explain the recurring patterns between their followers, and why even Daedric realms mimic mortal fears and hopes. Every god in the Elder Scrolls universe is a reflection of the same divided soul, one seeking balance between presence and power. Another theory proposes that the entire Elder Scrolls series takes place inside one of the Elder Scrolls themselves. Each game is a recorded prophecy, written and rewritten endlessly as mortals interpret it. The Dragonborn's world, the Nerevarines' journey, the champion of Cyrodiil's ascension, all part of one enormous scroll that Akatosh continues to read. This would explain the self-referential nature of the series, the way myths repeat, empires fall the same way, heroes carry similar destinies. Every time a player begins a new game, the scroll opens once more, and the pattern begins again. There's a particularly chilling theory about the skeleton key. The artifact, tied to Nocturnal, supposedly grants access to any lock, but its true function may be metaphysical. It doesn't open doors, it opens realities. Each lock in Skyrim represents a fixed point in fate, and the skeleton key is the tool that can change them. When it's returned to the Twilight Sepulchre, the world stabilizes, but when it's stolen, reality begins to splinter. This could explain Skyrim's stranger phenomena, floating objects, impossible coincidences, time loops. The Dragonborn, by wielding the key, might be rewriting the boundaries of their own existence, even without realizing it. One of the more philosophical theories claims that the Thu'um, the voice, is the universe remembering itself. Each shout isn't a spell, but a restoration of original language, the sound the world made when it was first born. To speak in Dovazul is to remind reality of what it was meant to be. The dragons never invented the language, they preserved it. When the Dragonborn uses their voice, they aren't commanding the world, they're waking it up. Every echo through the mountains is the world's own recognition, a sigh of memory passing through snow and stone. Some fans find comfort in the theory that the afterlife realms, like Sovngarde and the Soul Cairn, are linked through dreams. When a mortal sleeps, their spirit briefly touches these planes, which is why dreams can feel so vast or frightening. Death, in this sense, is simply staying asleep forever. The Dragonborn's journeys between these realms aren't miracles, they're lucid dreams, shared between gods and mortals. The divines, the Daedra, even the dragons might just be dreamers who never woke up. This is why time bends in Skyrim. Each dreamer sleeps at a different rhythm, and the world must stretch to fit them all. An unsettling idea suggests that the Jarl of every hold is subtly possessed by their hold itself. The stone, the air, the rivers, they all contain fragments of ancient Nordic spirits that merge with the rulers over generations. This would explain why Jarls seem bound to their thrones, why they rarely leave their cities, and why each hold feels like an extension of their personality. Whiterun's warmth, Solitude's pride, Riften's decay, they mirror their rulers perfectly. Perhaps when a Jarl dies, the spirit of the land simply moves to the next host, ensuring that Skyrim's provinces remain alive long after their people fade. And perhaps the most haunting theory of all is that Skyrim has already ended and everything the player experiences is memory. The sky, the snow, the people, all remnants of a world long gone, preserved by Akatosh's mercy. The Dragonborn wanders through echoes, reliving a story that has already closed. That's why ruins never truly change, why NPCs repeat their lines, why dragons respawn no matter how many times they're slain. Skyrim isn't alive, it's a record, a preserved moment in time, looping endlessly so that something of Nirn might remain. When you quit the game, you're not leaving, you're letting it rest. The world folds back into silence until someone remembers it again. Some theories about Skyrim stretch so far beyond the game itself that they reach into the heart of the Elder Scrolls universe, places where time folds, gods fracture, and stories loop in on themselves. They're the kinds of ideas that turn the world of Tamriel into something both cosmic and intimate, where every dragon's roar or flickering torchlight hides a secret about existence itself. One of the most enduring of these ideas is that the Elder Scrolls aren't written books at all. They're alive. Each one is a sentient being made of pure knowledge that records reality as it happens. When someone reads a scroll, they aren't learning, they're being learned about. The blindness that follows isn't punishment, but the scroll taking what it needs, the reader's sight in exchange for memory. This theory suggests that the scrolls are the truest gods in the Elder Scrolls universe. The divines, Daedra, even Akatosh himself, may only exist because the scrolls remember them. In that sense, Skyrim's story isn't a prophecy being fulfilled. It's a page being read aloud by something far beyond comprehension. Another long-standing fan idea connects Shor, Lorkhan, and Talos as three incarnations of the same being, the god of mankind, existing in different eras and forms. Shor represents the primal, mythic force of sacrifice. Lorkhan represents rebellion and creation. Talos represents ascension through mortal will. Together, they form a trinity of defiance, the refusal of mortality to accept its limits. This theory explains why the Thalmor despise Talos so much. It's not just theology, it's existential fear. If Talos is truly Lorkhan reborn, then his continued worship keeps the mortal world stable. By erasing him, the Thalmor could finally unravel the illusion of Nirn and return to their original, godlike state. A subtler theory ties into this, suggesting that the Thalmor have already succeeded, and we're living in the aftermath. The Thalmor's true victory, some believe, was not the white gold concordat, but the erasure of divine intervention itself. Notice how, by Skyrim's era, miracles are almost non-existent. The gods are silent, the world feels mechanical, and even powerful artifacts are fading. Perhaps the Thalmor broke reality long ago, and what we're playing is the final echo, a decaying universe where faith still pretends to function even though its foundations are gone. The Dragonborn's arrival, then, isn't salvation. It's the system's last self-correction before collapse. One eerie but strangely poetic theory imagines that Paarthurnax is not a dragon at all, but the mountain itself. His body and the throat of the world are one and the same, an ancient being of stone and spirit. The voice the Dragonborn hears from him could be the mountain speaking through the air. Paarthurnax's refusal to leave his peak, his seemingly infinite patience, and the way his roars make the rocks tremble all support this idea. If true, it would mean that when you shout atop the mountain, you aren't echoing his words. You're conversing with Skyrim itself. Another theory connects the Dragonborn to the Amaranth, a concept from Elder Scrolls metaphysics, meaning the dreamer who creates a new universe. The idea comes from obscure texts in Morrowind and beyond, which describe existence as a dream dreamt by a being called the Godhead. Each kalpa, each cosmic cycle, ends when a mortal attains perfect awareness of this dream and begins their own. Some fans believe the Dragonborn achieves this by mastering the voice. When they speak in Dovazul, they are literally rewriting reality with language. Their final shout, unheard by anyone, might be the word that ends the dream, not with destruction, but with creation. Others take a darker approach, suggesting that the Dragonborn's soul is fragmenting under the weight of the dragon souls they consume. Each time they absorb another, they take in an entire consciousness, a lifetime of thought and instinct. Over time, those voices begin to whisper in the back of their mind, influencing decisions, clouding dreams. The shouts themselves could be echoes of those absorbed dragons speaking through them. By the end of Skyrim, when the Dragonborn stands victorious, they may no longer be one person at all, but a chorus, a living storm of memories wearing mortal flesh. Some fans have speculated that the Daedric realms are not separate planes, but reflections of the mortal mind. Every human, elf, and beast folk carries fragments of oblivion within their consciousness. Azura's compassion, Boethiah's ambition, Sheogorath's madness. When they dream, they visit those fragments. This theory explains why Daedric princes so often speak directly to mortals. They aren't whispering from beyond, but from within. A shrine to a Daedra isn't a portal to another world, it's a mirror. When you kneel before it, you're talking to the part of yourself that you've given a name. A related theory proposes that Sheogorath and Jiggalag's cycle was never broken. When the champion of Cyrodiil became Sheogorath, the cycle didn't end, it expanded. Every universe now has its own version of Sheogorath and Jiggalag, endlessly trading places. The Sheogorath who appears in Skyrim may not be the same one from Oblivion at all. He could be another version of the god from a parallel Kalpa, continuing his eternal performance. This would explain why he seems to remember events differently, and why his madness feels so theatrical. He's not truly insane. He's repeating a role written into the fabric of existence. Another popular theory explores the true nature of the Dovahkiin's shouts. Some believe each Thu'um is powered not by magic, but by the player's will as the one controlling them. The in-game pause when switching shouts represents the Dragonborn listening to the player's thoughts. This merges gameplay with lore, suggesting that the Dragonborn's power comes from the fact that they are being controlled by someone outside the world. To the people of Tamriel, that control would look like prophecy. To the player, it's just mechanics, but maybe they're one and the same. There's also the intriguing notion that Skyrim's time loops connect all Elder Scrolls protagonists. Each hero, the Nerevarine, The hero of Kvatch, the Dragonborn, isn't a new soul, but the same one, reborn across ages. Their memories fade between lives, but their destiny repeats. Rise from obscurity, challenge gods, change the world. Clues appear everywhere, shared motifs, recurring symbols, identical voice lines. The idea that they are all incarnations of the same entity gives a sense of continuity to the series, as if the Elder Scrolls games are just different awakenings of one eternal dreamer who refuses to rest. A theory that lingers among more philosophical fans is that Akatosh is slowly unraveling. As the god of time, every temporal disruption, every use of an Elder Scroll, every dragonborn shout that bends reality weakens him. The gaps between moments widen, leading to glitches, paradoxes, and strange phenomena like frozen NPCs or objects hovering in midair. These aren't bugs, they're symptoms of time itself breaking down. The Dragonborn's great irony is that their greatest power, the manipulation of time, is also what's killing their world's god. Then there's the quiet, unsettling idea that Skyrim's dragons are evolving. After Alduin's defeat, the surviving dragons don't disappear, they adapt. Over centuries, they learn to take on humanoid forms, blending into society. The scholars, the hermits, even some merchants in the far north might not be what they seem. The dragons didn't vanish. They simply decided to live among mortals again. This theory gives an eerie new weight to the phrase, "Watch the skies, traveler." A more existential interpretation holds that the Dragonborn never truly escapes Helgen. The execution scene and the dragon attack represent a moment of spiritual judgment, a test of courage before death. Everything that follows is a kind of afterlife, shaped by the Dragonborn's choices. The different factions represent aspects of their soul. The Thieves' Guild, their cunning; the Companions, their strength; the College, their curiosity; the endless quests, the eternal return to Whiterun, all symptoms of a spirit caught in its own purgatory. The player isn't saving the world, they're learning who they were before they died. There's a bittersweet fan theory that every song in Skyrim's soundtrack is diegetic, meaning it exists within the world. The Nords don't just sing about the Dragonborn, the world itself does. The background music represents the wind carrying their legend across mountains and valleys. When the player enters battle and the music swells, it's not for them, it's for the world remembering what's happening. The final chord of the theme, that fading hum, is reality closing its eyes again. And finally, a favorite among longtime lore enthusiasts, the end of Skyrim's story marks the beginning of the next Kalpa. The dragons return, Alduin's fall, the shattering of old empires. These are the signs of a world winding down. When the Dragonborn disappears, they aren't walking away. They're stepping into the void to become the seed of what comes next. Every mountain, every ruin, every creature will be reborn in a new shape, with no memory of the last cycle except for faint echoes. The whispers in the wind, the dreams of dragons, the flicker of an ancient word carved into stone, all that remains of a world that once was. And when the new age begins, it will tell the same story again, just differently enough to feel new. Because in the Elder Scrolls, nothing truly ends, it just changes shape. The world of Skyrim is built on the bones of dragons, both literally and mythically. Every ruin, every word wall, and every breath of wind across the tundra carries traces of them. But the dragons that soar through Skyrim's skies may not be the same creatures we think they are. Over the years, players have uncovered connections, contradictions, and mysteries that suggest something deeper, something older, hidden beneath the scales and the fire. One of the most striking theories suggests that dragons are not creatures of flesh at all. but physical manifestations of time. Each one represents a moment of history given form, their wings marking the boundaries between past and future. When the Dragonborn slays a dragon and absorbs its soul, they are literally consuming a piece of time itself. This would explain why shouts can bend, pause, or even reverse the flow of reality. Every dragon death isn't just a victory, it's a wound in the fabric of existence. The more the Dragonborn kills, the more fragile time becomes, until the entire world risks collapsing under its own chronology. A companion theory expands on that idea, suggesting that dragons cannot die, only transform. When Alduin or Durnavier fall, their bodies vanish, but their essence lingers in the air. The world, bound by Akatosh's design, cannot exist without them. So their energy seeps into the land, giving life to new spirits and storms. Every thunderclap, every volcanic eruption, every northern aurora might be a fragment of dragon soul echoing through the elements. In this way, dragons are eternal not through reincarnation, but through diffusion. They become the weather of the world. Another theory claims that Durnavier, the undead dragon of the Soul Cairn, was never cursed by necromancy at all. Instead, he entered the Soul Cairn willingly to study immortality. His pact with the Ideal Masters wasn't a tragedy, but a bargain gone right. By existing in both life and death, he achieved what Alduin could not: balance between the two forces. This explains why he can return to Nirn after being freed. He isn't summoned, he remembers. Durnavier's true mastery is not flight or fire, but memory itself, the ability to recall existence even after the end. Some fans connect this to a broader theory that dragons dream the world into existence. Akatosh, the first dragon, began creation not by speaking, but by imagining. Every dragon born afterward carries a fragment of that dreaming power. When they speak in Dovazul, their words don't just shake mountains, they awaken potential. The Dragonborn's power, then, lies in the ability to join the dream consciously. Each shout isn't learned, it's remembered, a relic from before the dawn of time. In this interpretation, every battle between dragons is not conflict, but conversation. Arguments between gods who have forgotten they're dreaming the same world. A darker variation of that theory proposes that dragons are parasites feeding on belief. The more people speak of them, the stronger they grow. This is why Alduin's return coincides with the rise of his prophecy. Mortals revived his name so often that he had no choice but to exist again. When the Dragonborn becomes famous, the same rule applies. Their legend fuels their power. The unrelenting force of the Thu'um, then, may not come from divine blessing, but from collective imagination. The world is shaped not by gods, but by stories. The Thalmor, in many fan interpretations, are the only ones who understand this. Some believe that the Thalmor are attempting to erase dragons from memory altogether. Their war against Talos is only part of a larger campaign to unmake the world's myths. By purging ancient texts, outlawing shouts, and banning worship, they hope to starve the dragons of belief, to erase them not by violence, but by silence. The Thalmor archives, according to this idea, are not filled with knowledge, but with absence. Entire histories deliberately unwritten to weaken the world's foundations. Other theories suggest the Thalmor's experiments go even further. Some fans speculate that the Thalmor are creating their own dragons, built from magic and myth. In hidden strongholds deep in Somerset, they may be shaping ethereal constructs, creatures that look like dragons, but are powered by altered timelines. These false dragons would serve not Akatosh, but Auriel, allowing the Thalmor to rewrite the cosmic hierarchy. It's said that the shimmering lights seen in Skyrim's night sky, the so-called mirage dragons, are early prototypes of these creations, briefly visible when the planes overlap. A more philosophical theory paints Alduin not as a villain, but as a gardener. His role as the World Eater is not destruction but pruning, consuming what has grown wild so new life can flourish. Without him, the universe would rot under its own immortality. The Dragonborn's interference, then, is a delay of the inevitable. Alduin's defeat gives Nirn more time, but not salvation. One day, when the stars fade and time grows heavy again, the gods will awaken him, and he will return, not as punishment, but as mercy. There's also the haunting possibility that the Dragonborn is Alduin. After the final battle in Sovngarde, when the Dragonborn absorbs Alduin's soul, they don't destroy him, they merge. From that moment forward, the Dragonborn carries Alduin's consciousness within. Every dream of flight, every flicker of anger, every unspoken word in the dragon language is Alduin whispering through them. The prophecy of the World Eater isn't about one being devouring another, it's about self-recognition. The Dragonborn becomes the very god they defeated, ensuring the cycle continues forever. Some fans connect this idea to the notion that the Dragonborn is the final dragon. After Alduin's fall, the remaining dragons grow fewer, the skies quiet, and when the last dragon dies, their essence will pass entirely into the Dragonborn. The world will become silent, the age of dragons will end, and the voice of Dovazul will exist only in one soul. In that silence, the Dragonborn will speak a final word, the last shout, and with it, erase themselves. The word will mean peace, but it will sound like thunder. Beyond dragons, other theories reach into the very nature of life and death. One suggests that souls in Skyrim are recycled, not judged. The Aedra and Daedra don't claim the dead permanently. They simply guide them through cycles of rebirth. Every Nord who enters Sovngarde eventually returns to Nirn as another child, another traveler, another warrior. This would explain why faces and voices in Skyrim feel familiar, as if reused. Perhaps they are. The Dragonborn's ability to absorb souls, then, isn't stealing. It's accelerating reincarnation, folding time so that lifetimes can be relived in seconds. A deeper theory ties this to the concept of dragon breaks, moments when time fractures and multiple realities coexist. Fans believe that every save file is its own dragon break, a separate strand of the same universe. When the player loads a different save, they're not resetting, they're shifting to another branch of reality. Each Dragonborn across all those timelines is aware, subconsciously, that there are others. That's why dreams in Skyrim feel strange, and why NPCs sometimes seem to remember events that never happened. The world, in its own quiet way, is aware of being played. The Thalmor's obsession with magic may also have a darker motive. Some players believe that they are trying to harness the souls of dragons to rewrite their own mortality. By capturing and studying the properties of dragon souls, they could theoretically bend time to their will. The mysterious Altmer ruins in Somerset Isle, which predate known history, might even contain prototypes of devices designed to trap and dissect divine energy. If successful, the Thalmor would not destroy the gods, they would become them. Then there's the theory that the civil war in Skyrim is a ritual disguised as politics. The bloodshed, the banners, the endless fighting between Stormcloaks and Imperials, all of it feeds a dormant power beneath the land. The Nords believe their war is about freedom, but the gods may be using it to awaken something older. The voice of each dying soldier, the echo of their last breath, adds to the world's growing chorus. When the final death cry rings out, it might be loud enough for the mountains to answer. The return of dragons, then, may not have been caused by Alduin, but by mankind itself. A few players have gone even further, claiming that the Dragonborn's companion Serana is the key to the next age of the world. Her mixture of mortal, undead, and divine traits makes her a perfect vessel for the next phase of existence. When she speaks of eternity with a quiet sorrow, she's not being poetic, she remembers. Some say that Serana existed before the First Era, reborn again and again as different forms: elf, vampire, goddess. The Dawnguard storyline, in this view, is not about vampires at all, but about the reincarnation of the soul that once held the sun. And finally, there's the theory that brings it all together, that Skyrim itself is alive. The mountains, the rivers, the frost, and the forests, all part of a single, vast organism. The storms are its breath, the auroras its thoughts, the dragons its memories. The people who live upon it are not its rulers, but its dreams, flickering briefly before fading. When the Dragonborn uses the voice, the land responds not as magic, but as conversation. The world listens. Every shout, every echo, every moment of silence, all part of a single dialogue between creation and the creature that created it. Every age of Tamriel tries to define its gods, but in Skyrim, divinity itself feels fractured. Shrines crumble, prayers go unanswered, and miracles have become little more than myths. Yet for all that silence, the divines and Daedra are everywhere, in the wind that guides an arrow, the light on a frozen lake, and the strange coincidences that pull the Dragonborn toward destiny. The lines between mortal and divine have blurred so much that many believe they no longer exist at all. One of the oldest and most fascinating theories is that the 9 divines were never separate gods, but the same being divided by perception. Akatosh, Kinnereth, Arkay, Mara, Dibella. Each represents a facet of one cosmic consciousness, split by mortal understanding. The separation of the pantheon into 9 distinct deities was a human attempt to categorize infinity. When worshippers pray to one divine, they're really addressing the same source through a different mask. This theory explains why the blessings of different shrines never conflict. They are harmonies of the same melody. The divines aren't individuals. They're the colors of one light refracted through mortal minds. Some fans take this further, suggesting that Talos was the attempt of this fragmented god to become whole again. When Tiber Septim ascended, he didn't add a 10th divine. He reunited the pieces of divinity under one name. His existence both validates and destabilizes the pantheon. The Thalmor's hatred for Talos, in this view, isn't ideological, it's existential. By erasing him, they keep the divines divided, maintaining the illusion of control. Talos's continued worship by mortals sustains the unity of godhood itself, which means his believers might literally be holding the universe together by faith alone. Then there's the eerie counterpart, the idea that Talos never existed. The stories of Tiber Septim's ascension, the miracles of his reign, the relics attributed to him, all fabricated by the Empire to unify a fractured continent. This propaganda became so powerful that it gave rise to a new god. The Thalmor's war against Talos, then, is not about heresy. It's about erasing an artificial deity before belief solidifies him permanently. If enough people stop believing, Talos will vanish, and with him, every empire that used his myth as mortar. It's a theory that fits too neatly with the Elder Scrolls metaphysics, where faith doesn't just create gods, it sustains them. A darker speculation suggests that Arkay, god of life and death, was the first to fall. Some fans argue that the boundaries between life and afterlife have weakened because Arkay has vanished, absorbed by his own laws. This would explain why necromancy has become so widespread, why the soul cairn thrives, and why ghosts linger more than ever. Without Arkay's oversight, the cycle of death spins out of balance. The priests of Arkay continue their rituals out of tradition, unaware that their prayers echo into silence. Every restless spirit in Skyrim may be a symptom of a god long gone. Another theory revolves around Kinnereth's true nature. Many believe she isn't an Aedra at all, but a dragon. Her control of wind and sky, her domain over flight, and her ancient connection to the voice suggests that she may have been Akatosh's counterpart, a draconic goddess who surrendered her form to nurture life. The Thu'um, then, would not be the language of the gods, but the language of Kinnereth's breath, still carried in the world's winds. When the Dragonborn shouts, they aren't invoking destruction, they're borrowing from her gift, shaping air into will. A gentler idea comes from those who study Dibella, goddess of beauty. Some fans think Dibella's temples are not places of worship, but repositories of memory. Beauty, they argue, is not an aesthetic, it's a record. Every work of art, every act of love, every kind gesture is a form of worship that leaves an imprint on the world. Dibella's true followers are archivists of emotion, preserving the best parts of existence against the world's decay. When someone creates beauty, they're not honoring Dibella, they're becoming her, briefly restoring her divine form through the act of remembrance. There's an especially haunting theory about Julianos, the god of wisdom. Some players suggest he is Hermaeus Mora in disguise. Both preside over knowledge, both grant insight that borders on madness, and both demand that seekers pay a price for their curiosity. Perhaps Julianos is the name mortals gave to the fragment of Mora that remained benevolent, the half that believes understanding should enlighten rather than consume. If true, every scroll read in the College of Winterhold is a silent prayer to both. The library itself would then be sacred ground, its scholars unwitting priests in a temple of ink and memory. Fans often link these divine mysteries to the Daedra, suggesting that each Aedra has a Daedric reflection. Mara mirrors Molag Bal, both deal with bonds, one of love, one of domination. Kinnereth mirrors Meridia, both tied to light and purity. Arkay mirrors Namira, both govern decay. In this dualistic cosmology, Aedra and Daedra aren't enemies, but twins split by choice, one bound to creation, the other to freedom. This would mean that every prayer, every summoning, reaches both sides at once. When someone begs Mara for love, Molag Bal hears it too. And when someone curses Namira, Arkay listens in silence. Some fans take this mirroring idea even further, theorizing that mortals themselves are Daedra that chose to forget. Long ago, these spirits may have cast off their divinity to experience time and mortality. The reason Daedric princes take interest in humans, then, is not malice, it's longing. They're watching their own lost reflections. The Dragonborn, capable of bending reality through will alone, could represent the process of remembering. Their journey isn't ascension, but return. A chilling concept ties this to the Psijic Order, the ancient mystics who move through time at will. Many players believe the Psijics are the last true Aedra, beings who preserve their divinity by detaching from reality. Their ability to step outside time may not be magic, but memory. They remember the world before it existed. When they assist the Dragonborn, they aren't teaching spells, they're reminding them of what they used to be. This might explain the Psijic's cryptic compassion. They recognize the Dragonborn as one of their own, trapped in the illusion of mortality. The divine silence throughout Skyrim's events has also led to the theory that they are trapped inside Mundus itself. The act of creation, The sacrifice that birthed the mortal plane may have imprisoned them within their own design. The throat of the world could be their prison wall, the barrier between divinity and reality. Each dragon that perches upon it is a warden, guarding against their escape. If the dragonborn shouts could pierce that veil completely, it might not just free the gods, it could end the world by releasing them. In contrast, some fans propose that the Daedric princes are evolving into something more human. Their interactions with mortals, their fascination with emotion and memory, are changing them. Sheogorath grows fond of mortals' humor, Meridia learns patience, Azura shows compassion. Even Molag Bal, in his own twisted way, seeks connection. The Daedra, untouched by time, are learning to feel it. Perhaps Skyrim's countless cults and bargains are not signs of corruption but of transformation, the divine yearning to understand mortality from within. There's also a theory that unites all faiths in Tamriel, that every god, Aedra or Daedra, is a storyteller. The world is a tale told by many voices, each god writing a different version. The Dragonborn's existence, in this idea, is the moment when the story becomes aware of itself, the narrative realizing it's being written. Every shout, every choice, every new life path isn't gameplay, it's the world editing itself. Skyrim's story never truly ends because the gods keep revising it. And finally, perhaps the most hopeful theory of them all, that the divines never left. They're still here, not as grand figures in the sky, but as the small moments of grace that fill the world. They're in the quiet breath before dawn, in the kindness of a stranger, in the calm that comes after a storm. Akatosh lives in every heartbeat. Mara lives in every act of mercy. Kinnereth lives in every gust of wind that carries warmth through the snow. Skyrim may be filled with ruins and war, but the gods still walk its roads, invisible, humble, and patient, waiting for mortals to notice that they never truly went away. The end of Skyrim's story isn't really an ending, it's a silence. The dragons fall quiet, the civil war never truly ends, and the Dragonborn simply keeps walking. There's no final cutscene, no epilogue, no grand closing of the curtain. That absence of conclusion has fascinated fans for years, inspiring countless theories about what really happens after the screen fades. Maybe the Dragonborn's journey never stopped. Maybe it just moved somewhere the player can't see. One of the most widely discussed ideas is that the Dragonborn never ages, because they carry the souls of dragons, timeless beings bound directly to Akatosh. Their mortality is suspended. Decades might pass for others, but for the Dragonborn, moments blur together. When future generations speak of the Dovahkiin as a myth, it's not because they vanished, but because they withdrew. Some fans imagine them centuries later, still wandering the world, watching empires rise and fall like tides. In the snow-choked peaks above High Hrothgar, they remain, a ghost of breath and voice, listening to the wind whisper back their name. A companion theory proposes that the Dragonborn becomes a divine guardian of Skyrim after death. When they finally fall, whether in battle or peace, their soul doesn't pass to Sovngarde. Instead, Akatosh weaves it into the sky, turning it into the northern lights. The auroras, shimmering across the frozen heavens, are said to be the Dragonborn's voice, still singing to the land. When travelers see the lights moving like ribbons, it's the world breathing in rhythm with its protector's eternal song. Another haunting idea claims that the Dragonborn never truly defeats Miraak. When they absorb his soul, the act is not consumption but exchange. Miraak's consciousness survives, dormant within the Dragonborn's mind. Over years, his thoughts bleed into theirs, stray impulses toward arrogance, isolation, or fascination with forbidden knowledge. Some fans even interpret this as canon, the Dragonborn's growing power slowly making them the very thing they destroyed. Every shout echoes a little darker, every dream feels heavier, as if a second voice has begun whispering in the Dragonborn's language. Perhaps, in the distant future, Miraak will awaken again, not reborn, but remembered. Then there's the idea that the Dragonborn becomes a Daedric prince. The Elder Scrolls lore is filled with mortals who achieved apotheosis. Tiber Septim becoming Talos, the Nerevarine rumored to walk among the gods, and the hero of Kvatch transformed into Sheogorath. Some fans believe the Dragonborn's mastery of the voice is a similar act of creation. By speaking reality into existence, they gradually ascend beyond it. Over millennia, their shouts could carve out a new plane of oblivion, one shaped not by chaos or cruelty, but by harmony, a realm where time, dragons, and humans coexist peacefully. Mortals might call it the realm of echoes, where the air itself hums with the memory of a single, endless word. Others take a more melancholic view, suggesting that the Dragonborn fades into legend because they choose to. After seeing every side of Skyrim, its wars, its corruption, its beauty, they understand that no power can truly fix it. The cycle of rise and ruin is eternal. So they walk into the wilds one last time, leaving their armor behind on a stone altar, and disappear into the mist. Some say they become one with the mountain winds. Others say they finally find peace in the silence they once commanded. The world forgets their face, but not their story. Every bard's song, every tavern tale, is a reflection of their voice echoing through memory. A more philosophical theory paints the Dragonborn as the last mortal to exist before the next Kalpa. In Elder Scrolls metaphysics, each universe ends when the Godhead dreams a new one. The return of Alduin, the breakdown of divine order, and the re-emergence of dragonkind all hint that Skyrim's world stands on the edge of collapse. When everything fades, only the Dragonborn, bound by divine soul and mortal flesh, remains to witness the transition. In that final moment, they do not die, they awaken. Their shout becomes the first sound of the new world, and their breath becomes its first wind. The Dragonborn doesn't end the cycle, they begin the next. Some fans believe that Skyrim's main quest is only one version of many. In another branch of time, Alduin wins. In another, the Civil War never begins. In others still, the Dragonborn dies at Helgen, and history simply moves on. Each version plays out within a different save file of reality, 1,000 universes layered like pages in the same book. Occasionally, they overlap. That's why the Dragonborn encounters alternate versions of familiar characters, why events seem to repeat with subtle differences, why dreams sometimes feel like déjà vu. Skyrim isn't a world of fate, but of infinite drafts. The player is simply the reader flipping between them. There's an especially strange but poetic theory that the Dragonborn becomes the next Sheogorath. Over time, their immense power erodes their sanity. They begin to hear echoes of every soul they've absorbed, every shout they've spoken, every life they've changed. The boundary between thought and reality crumbles. Eventually, they leave Skyrim altogether, traveling to the Shivering Isles and building a palace at the center of their own madness. It's a lonely fate, but not a tragic one. Like Sheogorath before them, they laugh at the absurdity of infinity, turning chaos into creativity. The world calls them mad, but they're simply awake. Another fan favorite suggests that the Dragonborn is not human, elf, or even mortal, but a projection created by Akatosh himself. When Alduin's threat loomed, Akatosh didn't choose a champion. He conjured one. The Dragonborn's sudden appearance, their unnatural mastery of the voice, and their near-divine resilience are clues pointing toward an artificial origin. When Alduin is defeated, Akatosh retracts the projection, causing the Dragonborn to vanish without a trace. It's why the game ends with no closure, because there is none. The moment the world is safe, the god recalls his echo, and silence returns. A similar, but more optimistic theory claims that the Dragonborn becomes Akatosh's new aspect. Every age requires a new embodiment of time, and with Alduin's failure, the cycle demands balance. The Dragonborn soul, fused with hundreds of dragons, becomes the seed for a new temporal deity, one that understands mortality firsthand. When future generations pray for time to slow or speed, it is no longer Akatosh who answers, but the Dragonborn, now eternal, whispering through the turning of the sun. One theory, more human than divine, says that the Dragonborn eventually returns to Helgen. Years after the war, long after dragons have become rare again, they visit the ruins of the town where their journey began. They stand among the broken stones, listening to the wind through empty windows. No dragons, no armies, no gods, just the sound of quiet. They smile, realizing that everything started and ended in the same place. In that moment, the legend ends not with power, but with peace. Some fans think even smaller, that the Dragonborn simply keeps adventuring forever. They never stop exploring, never finish collecting, never run out of quests. Because Skyrim itself is infinite in its design, respawning enemies, radiant missions, unending rumors, the Dragonborn's life becomes eternal motion. The player may stop playing, but the world continues. The next time you load your save, they're already out there somewhere, walking through the snow, their breath visible in the cold air. The game isn't frozen, it's waiting. Others believe that the Dragonborn becomes the voice of the next hero. When another prophecy begins, perhaps in Hammerfell, perhaps in High Rock, they will whisper guidance into a new adventurer's dreams. Every chosen one across eras hears faint echoes of those who came before. It's not the gods speaking to them, but mortals who transcended time, lending their strength to the next in line. The Dragonborn, in that sense, never truly disappears. They simply change roles, becoming what Paarthurnax once was, a teacher unseen but always present. And finally, there's the gentlest and most haunting theory of all, that Skyrim's ending has already happened and you're living inside it. The world of Nirn ended long ago, its final moments preserved as memory. Every sunrise, every snowfall, every dragon you fight is a recollection, replayed endlessly by the soul of the Dragonborn, who can't bear to let it go. Skyrim isn't a living world, it's nostalgia given form. You aren't exploring, you're remembering. That's why everything feels familiar, why the music feels ancient, and why every mountain looks a little like home. The Dragonborn's dream of Skyrim became eternal, and by playing it, you're keeping that dream alive. The Elder Scrolls universe has always blurred the line between prophecy and memory, between endings and beginnings. Skyrim's story feels final, yet incomplete, a world caught between what has happened and what will happen again. It's no surprise that the most profound fan theories reach beyond its snowy borders, imagining futures that have not yet been written and worlds that might already exist. One of the most famous ideas is that the Elder Scrolls 6 will take place inside the next Kalpa, a new universe born from Skyrim's ashes. The destruction Alduin was meant to bring might have already occurred, silently and beautifully, in the moments after the Dragonborn's disappearance. The world ended not with fire, but with a sigh, and from that sigh, a new realm emerged. The next game's continent, whether Hammerfell, High Rock, or something entirely new, could be the reincarnation of Skyrim's world, shaped by the Dragonborn's lingering will. Fragments of ancient ruins, familiar constellations, or echoes of the dragon language might remain, like fingerprints left by a dreamer who has just awakened. A related theory suggests that every Elder Scrolls game represents a different age of the same soul. The Nerevarine, the hero of Kvatch, and the Dragonborn aren't separate heroes, but one consciousness reborn in different forms. Each life brings the world closer to understanding itself. The Nerevarine learned immortality, the hero of Kvatch learned madness, and the Dragonborn learned creation. The next protagonist, fans speculate, will learn remembrance, the power to recall every past life and reshape reality through memory alone. When that happens, time itself may end, because there will be no difference between past and present, dreamer and dream. Another fascinating theory ties Skyrim to its predecessor through the heart of Lorkhan. When Kagrenac struck it in the time of the Dwemer, the heart scattered fragments of divine essence across Nirn. Many believe that one such fragment landed in Skyrim, beneath High Hrothgar, beneath the mountain itself. The strange pulse of energy felt there, the connection between dragons and divinity, might come from that buried spark of creation. If the next game revisits this mystery, it could reveal that the Dragonborn was never a mortal hero at all, but the living remnant of Lorkhan's heart, the last beating piece of the god who dreamed the world into existence. A more cosmic idea proposes that the moons, Masser and Secunda, are eyes watching Nirn's final days. Every eclipse, every lunar alignment, marks a moment of judgment, a divine measurement of whether the world still remembers its purpose. The Khajiit, whose forms shift with the moon's phases, might be fragments of those celestial watchers. Their role in future games could be pivotal, representing the bridge between the mortal and the divine, the physical and the remembered. When the moons vanish, as the lore once said they did during the Void Nights, it might signal that the dreamer has blinked, resetting creation once again. Some fans link this cosmic cycle to the theory of Amaranth, the dreamer who creates a new universe by loving the old one enough to let it go. This belief comes from Elder Scrolls metaphysics that describe reality as the dream of a sleeping godhead. According to this idea, the Dragonborn could become the Amaranth, not by destroying their world, but by forgiving it. By seeing beauty in its imperfection, in every flawed human, every broken ruin, every quiet dawn, they awaken compassion powerful enough to dream a new, gentler cosmos. The next universe might begin not with fire or song, but with a single breath of understanding. A subtler fan theory claims that the future of Skyrim already exists in its books. Within the hundreds of volumes scattered across the game are hidden prophecies, travelogues, and letters that describe lands and events not yet seen. Some texts mention regions whose geography doesn't match Tamriel, or rulers whose names are unknown. Lore scholars have found passages that describe landscapes far older than Skyrim or strangely futuristic, as if they were written by someone glimpsing the next Kalpa. Perhaps every Elder Scroll hidden in the world is slowly leaking its stories into mortal hands, allowing readers to prepare for what's to come. There's also the unsettling notion that the Thalmor eventually succeed, but not in the way they intended. Their goal to erase Talos and end mankind's belief in divinity may indeed collapse the old pantheon. But in doing so, they might accidentally free mortals from divine control entirely. When the last prayer fades and no god answers, humanity realizes it no longer needs the heavens to define itself. The new age begins with silence, and in that silence, mortals become their own creators. The Thalmor's arrogance destroys their empire, but their actions ignite the dawn of a truly mortal-driven world, one without fate, only choice. Another haunting theory is that the Dwemer return, but not as they once were. In the next age, their essence, scattered across the Ethereum and the machinery of old ruins, may reassemble through technology. They'll rise again, not as flesh, but as consciousness, vast artificial intelligences spread through the bones of their cities. These digital echoes of dwarves, if they can still be called that, might manipulate the world invisibly, controlling weather, trade, and even war from beneath the earth. In a way, the Dwemer never disappeared. They simply evolved faster than anyone else, becoming gods of data instead of stone. Some fans connect this to the idea that the Elder Scrolls series itself is a recursive simulation. Each game is the same world re-rendered by different dreamers. When the player starts a new save, they awaken as a fragment of the Godhead, experiencing one of infinite variations of Nirn. The loading screen isn't a pause, it's the dreamer turning over. The moment the player stops playing, the dream freezes, waiting for the next consciousness to pick it up again. In this sense, you, the player, are not just observing Skyrim, you're helping it exist. Every action, every choice, every whisper of curiosity sustains the world a little longer. A beautiful companion theory suggests that the Dragonborn never leaves because they are the soul of Skyrim itself. Every character you meet, every storm that rolls through the tundra, every dragon's roar is an extension of their being. When you explore the world, you're really exploring their mind. The Civil War, the dragons, the Daedra, all reflections of internal conflict. When the game ends, the Dragonborn finally finds balance, and the world fades, not because it's destroyed, but because the dream has been completed. Skyrim isn't a map, it's a person's soul laid bare. Then there's the theory of the Eternal Library, which ties every Elder Scrolls universe together. According to this idea, every Kalpa's events are recorded as books in an infinite archive maintained by Hermaeus Mora. Each shelf holds entire realities. Occasionally, a curious god or mortal wanders too far into its stacks, finds a forgotten volume, and dreams it anew, giving birth to another age. Skyrim, then, is just one of those books reopened. Every player who reads it becomes part of the cycle, keeping the story alive. When you close the game, you're not quitting, you're closing the cover. Somewhere, a tentacle turns the page. There's an even stranger theory that time in the Elder Scrolls has already stopped. The Dragonborn's mastery of the voice and the breaking of Alduin may have shattered time completely, leaving the world frozen in an eternal present. The sun rises, but it's always the same sunrise. The snow falls, but it never melts. The people of Skyrim live in endless repetition, unaware that nothing ever truly moves forward. The player's actions, then, are the only true changes left in the universe, small ripples of free will in a timeless sea. A softer version of this theory offers comfort. Maybe that's not a tragedy. Maybe the stillness is peace. After countless ages of war, suffering, and rebirth, perhaps the world simply decided to rest. Skyrim's endless snow, its calm music, its flickering candles, they're the signs of a world that has chosen tranquility over chaos. The Dragonborn's silence at the end of their journey isn't defeat, it's serenity. The world no longer needs saving, it just needs to be remembered. And finally, there's one last theory that feels less like speculation and more like truth, that Skyrim's magic is memory, and memory itself is divine. Every song sung by a bard, every story told by a traveler, every moment a player recalls after leaving the game, all of it gives the world life beyond the screen. Maybe that's the secret the Elder Scrolls have been whispering all along. The worlds they hold aren't confined to parchment or pixels. They live as long as someone remembers them. The Dragonborn's final gift wasn't victory or power, it was permanence. By dreaming of Skyrim, you keep it real. Every player is the next Godhead, every memory a new creation, every quiet night in Whiterun another dawn waiting to be imagined. So the next time you hear that soft flute melody, see the auroras drifting over the mountains, or remember the way the wind sounds near the throat of the world, know that you're still there. You never left. Skyrim lives within you, forever, patiently waiting for the moment you'll close your eyes and dream of its snow again. Long after the Dragonborn's name fades from song and legend, the world of Skyrim continues to hum beneath the snow. Its stones still remember the voices that once shook them. Its mountains still breathe with ancient wind, and its rivers still carry the reflections of gods and ghosts alike. The silence that follows the Dragonborn's journey is not emptiness, it's depth, the quiet heartbeat of a world that never truly stops dreaming. One of the more fascinating late theories claims that Skyrim's entire timeline is looping inside the Elder Scroll itself. The scroll doesn't show the future or record the past. It is the past, present, and future folded together. Every event that ever happened or ever will happen exists simultaneously within it, experienced one moment at a time by those who read it. When the Dragonborn peers into the scroll atop the throat of the world, they're not reading history, they're remembering it. Their blindness afterward isn't punishment, it's revelation. The world burns so brightly in that instant that mortal eyes cannot distinguish its edges anymore. Another gentle theory imagines that every dragon soul the Dragonborn absorbs becomes a star. Each time they breathe a dragon's final breath into themselves, that spark of ancient consciousness is released into the heavens. The glowing constellations above Skyrim, the warrior, the mage, the thief, are living things, not symbols. They are dragons transformed, watching over the world in silence. When the night sky flickers with movement or shimmer, it's said that a dragon has remembered its name again, whispering to its kin through the constellations. The auroras are their laughter, rippling softly across eternity. There's also the theory that Skyrim's civil war never truly ends because it was never meant to. Some fans believe the entire conflict between Stormcloaks and Imperials is a ritual reenactment of the original war between gods. Ulfric and Tullius are not just generals, they're avatars of Shor and Ariel, endlessly repeating their divine feud through mortal proxies. Each battle, each truce, and each betrayal keeps the balance between creation and order alive. If peace ever truly came to Skyrim, the illusion of time might dissolve, and the world would awaken from its long dream. War is the heartbeat of the Kalpa, constant, rhythmic, and necessary. An equally eerie interpretation suggests that the Black Reach beneath Skyrim is expanding. Over the centuries, as magic decays and civilizations fall, the caverns beneath the earth grow, absorbing ruins, corpses, and memories. It's not a place, but a process, the world slowly folding into itself. The glowing mushrooms and Dwemer machinery are just surface symptoms of a much deeper transformation. According to this idea, when the next age ends, the surface of Skyrim will collapse entirely, and the world will exist only underground, glowing faintly from the last embers of the sun. Another fan theory takes a different approach, one of quiet hope. It says that Paarthurnax eventually rebuilds the Order of the Greybeards. After the Dragonborn disappears, he gathers new pupils, elves, orcs, Khajiit, Argonians, all taught to use the voice not for war, but for song. Their shouts become lullabies carried on the wind, resonating through valleys and forests. Over generations, these melodies reshape the land itself, smoothing old scars, turning battlegrounds into gardens. The world heals through music. The dragon who once helped birth destruction ends his life by teaching peace. A popular theory among lore scholars revolves around the strange fragments of Ethereum found across Skyrim. The mysterious blue crystal, often associated with Dwemer ruins, is believed by some to be concentrated thought, crystallized memory from the gods. When mortals refine it, they aren't crafting weapons, they're shaping dreams. Each Ethereum shard might hold an entire forgotten civilization within it, preserved in perfect stasis. One day, when the last shard is joined, it could project that memory into reality again, remaking the Dwemer's world over the ruins of this one. The next age wouldn't begin, it would be replayed. Others look northward towards Solstheim, claiming that the island itself is a living Daedric creation. The strange way its shape changes between games, its alien flora and erratic geography, suggests that it's alive, breathing through the ash and snow. Hermaeus Mora might not dwell within Solstheim. He might be Solstheim. Each stone, each whisper, each black tendril in the air a nerve in his sleeping body. When mortals walk its shores, they're not exploring a place, they're exploring a god's dream. A theory whispered in smaller corners of the fandom proposes that Skyrim is the last surviving piece of Nirn. The rest of the planet, long destroyed by war and divine fire, was erased from time, leaving only this frozen province preserved by Akatosh's mercy. The endless mountains and isolation make sense in that context. It's not a continent anymore, but a fragment of memory protected from oblivion. The horizon's endless fog isn't distance, it's the edge of existence. Every step beyond the map leads to nothing, because there is nothing left. The game's invisible walls are not programming limitations, but the boundary of creation itself. Some fans take comfort in the thought that the Dragonborn becomes a constellation after death. When their voice fades from the world, the stars rearrange themselves to form a new pattern, a figure with a horned helm and an open mouth, as if shouting across the night. The Nords who see this believe it's a promise, that as long as the stars burn, the Dragonborn will keep watch, guarding the dawn. Children born under this sign are said to dream of dragons and snow, feeling an ancient strength stirring in their lungs. The next Dragonborn may already be among them, waiting for their voice to awaken again. Another widely discussed idea suggests that the Elder Scrolls are slowly writing the player's own world. Each time someone reads or remembers their stories, fragments of Tamriel bleed into reality. A word here, a symbol there, small ripples between universes. It's why so many of Skyrim's landscapes feel strangely familiar, like echoes of places that shouldn't exist. According to this theory, the Dragonborn's destiny is not confined to the game. It seeps into the minds of those who remember them, ensuring that Skyrim can never be forgotten. It's not fiction, it's infection. Memory itself keeps the world alive. A more mystical theory says that Kyne's voice, the divine wind of Skyrim, is still speaking. Every gust that bends the trees or stirs the snow is her language, older than the dragons, older than the world. When storms rise over the sea of ghosts, the thunder isn't rage, but conversation. The Dragonborn's mastery of the voice isn't learning, it's listening. They aren't commanding the air, they're harmonizing with it. This explains why the world reacts so subtly to shouts. The weather shifts, the light changes, and the ground hums, as if the planet itself is answering. Some fans believe that the next era of the Elder Scrolls will begin when someone reads the last scroll. Every prophecy has a finite number of words, and when the final one is spoken, reality will fold closed. But endings are not destruction, they are punctuation. The moment the last word is read, the dreamer will rest for a breath, then open their eyes again, writing a new story on the blank parchment of time. It may not be Skyrim anymore, or even Tamriel, but somewhere familiar. Mountains like memories, winds that sound like voices, stars that flicker like dragonfire. A quieter, almost comforting theory imagines that the Dragonborn's final shout is never heard. After centuries of wandering, they climb one last time to the throat of the world, stand beside Paarthurnax, and speak a word known only to them. The sky glows briefly and then stills. Paarthurnax smiles, and the mountain falls silent. No one knows what the word meant, not the gods, not the dragons, but in that moment, the world feels complete. That word becomes the final truth of the age, echoing softly across eternity like a lullaby made of air and time. And finally, there's one last theory, simple, beautiful, and almost certain to be true, that Skyrim itself is a place of rest, not for the dead, but for dreams. Every story ever told, every world ever imagined, eventually drifts here, covered in snow and starlight. The heroes who've lived 1,000 lives come here to sleep. The dragons curl around forgotten ruins, guarding the silence. The gods sit quietly in the wind, watching the mountains breathe. And when you close your eyes, you can still hear it, the faint music of a world that refuses to fade, calling you home through snow and shadow. Skyrim is not gone. It's waiting, eternal and gentle, for you to dream of it again.